Hi, I'm Kyle, and this is my wife Anna, and these are our kids. And we like to go camping in some of the craziest places. This is what our car looks like most of the time. And here's some of the mods that we've done. And here's some of the places we've gone. If you want to learn a little bit more about us and some of the camping that we do, watch some of these videos. I'm sure it'll be a great time. We are YOLOverland.
Okay, so this is episode 3 of YOLOverland, where we talk about Bitter Springs Byway, Bitter Springs Bypass, and the Muddy Mountain Trail. And this map comes up way too fast. All right, so the blue line here is Bitter Springs Byway. The green line is the old Spanish Trail Mint 400 track from the early 2000s. Man, you don't know how many times I've done this video. Technical glitches. This is about a 26-mile track that goes north to south. And the rest of this green track here that gets all wonky is what I call the Bitter Springs Bypass, which takes you through the Logandale trails and on into Overton. Awesome track.
Overton's very beautiful.
Overton is very beautiful. Love that small town. Mm-hmm. And then the red track here is Muddy Mountain Trail, which is about 16 miles of primarily flat, decent, deserty earth that goes into the backside of the Pabco mine here, where they do drywall. And so the first time we had done Bitter Springs Byway was a night run.
Yeah.
And it was on a Friday at the end of work, and I just could not wait. Like, I could have gone Saturday like any other normal adult would do, but I said, no, let's go and do it. I have the map. So what would you say are some drawbacks to doing a night run of a trail you've never done before?
Go a lot slower, because in headlights you don't know if rocks are big or little. So they might look ginormous in your headlights, but then they're not that big. And then
so do you think the shadow is what deceives you?
Yeah.
And you can't see the night sky either. So when we went, there was no moon to speak of to light anything.
Yeah, because you don't even know the canyon you're driving right beside, how deep that is, if it's 5 feet or 20 feet below you.
Yeah, and you can't see anything around. So do you think it goes faster or slower at night?
Slower. Much slower.
I've heard either way from different people.
For me. Because you have to drive slower.
Yep.
And if your road curves a lot, you don't know what's up ahead of you.
Yeah. So you have to take your time a bit more and be more cautious, just because things initially present themselves as something different. And like I said,
rocks. You don't know how big rocks are either.
Yeah,
so.
And I apologize for the blurry potato cam photos here. We did not ordinarily take an awful lot of footage or get media on our first few off-road adventures. We would stop, she'd pop out of the moonroof, and she would take panos from there, and it's a better vantage point on top of your vehicle. But that kind of went away the further along we got, because we just had better equipment, and we didn't have a moonroof on the second car. But I think that forced us to take more photographic evidence of where we were.
I think we got more comfortable further on too with what are we doing and stuff. Here we were more focusing on, oh, that is pretty, but let's focus on driving in the road more than just chilling.
Yeah. So the later videos will have more content, but the beginning of Bitter Springs Byway, coming from the northern side, is pretty tight, and it's pretty thick with some larger boulders. So I wouldn't bring a car through here. I would bring absolutely a 4x4 vehicle through here with a little bit of clearance. I mean, the 4Runner here was stock. There wasn't a lift on it at all. It was the standard tires that come with it, the Duratrax, I think. And we didn't air down. And I talked a little bit about that in episode 1. But that definitely makes it a bit different. And so if you air down, you definitely have to be more careful because now you've lost that distance. But I would absolutely say please air down, because that's probably why
we plugged every single tire.
Every single tire twice, is because we decided not to air down like dummies. And so these pictures here are of the bypass, the beginning of the bypass, which is part of also Old Spanish Trail, Mid-400 track that goes into Overton. And this is pretty good track here up until you get to the mine. And that's when it really gets crazy. I would not suggest that to anyone unless you were gonna have like a Razor, because even like when we went through there in our Razor and some buddies with dirt bikes, oh man, in this place, you're not gonna make it. There's no way our 4Runner would make it. In fact, we barely made it through here this first try. And so just do your research beforehand. I knew that there was going to be some places on this track that were going to be issues. I did not realize what exactly the issues were going to be until, and there's our old GoPro.
Yeah, because right around that curve is where you hit into more of the mine area, and we ended up stopping with that car. We went back later on with our Razor and some buddies, and we ended up having to stack rocks up even for our Razor to get through.
Yeah, we had to build some ramps, and otherwise we'd have been flying off of like a 4-foot cliff in some locations. But I mean, once you got past this one section right around the corner here, it leveled out pretty well. It was pretty easy, and we got into Logandale and had a good time. But Logandale is like powdered sugar, and you definitely need something that's got some meat. We had the Razor in 4-wheel pretty much the majority of the time. And that was a good picture of the end of Bitter Springs Byway, which takes you into Echo Bay, an old abandoned marina on the northeastern edge.
I think the marina's gone now.
Yeah, they've taken out the marina. They've extended some of the boat ramps out. The campground is still there. Some of the facilities are still there. And it's a good area to set off from. I just don't have very good experience with the fishing around here.
Yeah.
To each their own, though. I've heard some people have some good time. This is the beginning of Muddy Mountain Trail right here. You can see some of the road coming up toward the mountain. It starts off paved and then turns to dirt. But it's actually pretty good. The majority of here is well used, paved, plowed. What do you normally call that?
What is this?
Yes. So this leaves Lake Mead National Rec area, and if you look at most of the maps, it turns into BLM land. And oh man,
this is when my husband plopped over the Razor. Plopped, literally.
So I attempted to do a donut, and I turned 4-wheel drive off, knowing that the front wheels were going to hook and possible to do something like this. But I did not realize how bad it was actually going to be. And so I ended up needing it in the middle of this flop over. I turned right to correct, and because there wasn't any power to the front wheels, this is probably why this happened. Otherwise, we probably would have gotten out of it. But I was doing probably 2 miles an hour, and if you're going to roll anything, that's probably the best way to do it. To just
it literally
push
was
it over.
We were right there, and it wanted to go back, but it just caught. And when you try to correct it, and it just literally you have plenty of time to mentally go, okay, don't put your hand down, grab your seatbelt, and it literally just went, ugh.
The worst. It was the worst.
So, baby, what happened? What was that? Gotta say a little louder.
Dummy equals dummy.
Yeah, for sure. But we ended up using the high lift jack there and flipping it back over because the initial fulcrum of getting something tipped is the heaviest point, but once you get it past about 45 degrees there, you really don't have any issues. I mean, the three of us were able to just push it the rest of the way over.
How wide this thing is, too, it was hard. We could not push it over the three of us.
Yeah. Yeah, we just couldn't get it. You saw some 2x4s there, and we just weren't able to get it lifted to a point where it would tip at all. Like, I mean, we got it lifted a couple inches, but just the sheer mass of the Razor, and it's a pretty light machine in its own right. But thankfully we were prepared, and we had that high lift jack. And man, high lift jacks are super useful.
Fact.
All right, so in review, we have Bitter Springs Byway, and I suggest that anybody get online and get on Google Maps and take a look top down at an aerial view of these areas, because there are trails all over the place.
Once you see them, you can pretty much pick it out anywhere.
Right, and all the trails out here, I will say the majority of the trails out here are in washes. It's because the water that does end up coming through here during crazy storms.
Hence why don't go through after a rain.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it.
Wait at least a week
Otherwise,
or
you'll end up in a situation like we did with the Forerunner. But
worse.
Do your research, get in there and take a look. And we use this program called US TOPO Maps Pro. It's available on Google Play Store. We have Android phones, and we use that primarily because you can cache all your maps. And initially, I would cache the imagery that we have, and I forgot what it was. The ESRI imagery that I would cache, and it was great because it was the research I was doing at the beginning was imagery, and then because of that research, it was like, this is the best. I can map everything out. I can see every trail, and you can see all the 2 tracks around here. And when you get out there and you get into a situation where am I? Where do I need to go next? Where's the trail connect? You don't get that in some of the other maps, like US Topo, the imagery, or not imagery, but the topographicals, the scanned from the US Geological Survey. Those aren't imagery; it's just drawn maps, and they have some great maps. But when you're really out there and you're stuck and you're freaking out, having an app that will download those images for you and let you really see what the terrain is going to be the best to get you out of a situation, at least when you're starting out. Once you get a little bit better, we've gotten to the point now where our last huge trips, we've only used the U.S. Geological Survey topographical maps, which are free to use, by the way. You can download as many as you want on their website, but
you just need the space.
Yeah, you need the space on your phone, or you can print your own just for an area. And we use those now because they have all the off-road routes, really, that we've taken anywhere here around Las Vegas, and I've actually found those to be a lot easier to handle. We've downloaded almost the whole western half of America for about.
Compare those to Google Earth. We'll pull up Google Earth, compare. Okay, I see this trail. I see this trail here. Okay, let's find it. Okay, it's kind of overgrown here. So what about this trail? Okay, that connected here because a wash went through and the trail is gone.
Yep.
So somebody made a new trail, and so compare. Don't just take one map.
Yep. When we here a couple of years ago, we had actually started doing because Google Earth is in virtual reality now, and so I would get on virtual reality and zoom around in Google Earth and legitimately 3D preview the terrain that was around us or was going to be around us. So I knew prior to even being there what kind of situations we were going to be getting ourselves into.
Which helps if you do get lost because you've already, okay, wait a minute.
You can orient yourself much more quickly and effectively, and it turns what could be an emergency situation into it's right over here. It's no big deal. And so we've used just about every tool that we could utilize prior to even going out as part of our pre-trip planning. Because like with the Razor, if we weren't ready for that, if we didn't have a spare If we didn't have the high lift jack, we would have had to call out for help. And so there have been times, even with the Forerunner in the Lake Mead National Rec area, where we've had to pull a tire off on one of the back trails and fill it up with air, plug it real good, and then put it back on the car so we could just get off the trail and get out of there.
Well, even with the Razor hitting that rock, it bent our rim.
Yeah, it bent the rim, and we had to utilize the spare. And so preparation really is key if you're going to go out to any of these areas. And when we took, I call it the Bitter Springs bypass that goes into Logandale trails, when we did that one, we had 2 other people with us on dirt bikes, but we packed 10 gallons of water on top of the Razor. We had spare gas with us as well, but we were reaching 114 degree temperatures on that particular trip, because I think it was the middle of June when we had gone. And so
it was supposed to be like a 4-hour. It ended up being like
6 to 7.
No, it was close to 8.
It was quite a distance from.
It doubled it.
Right, because we basically left from right across the street from Las Vegas Motor Speedway and took that bypass all the way out to Overton. And what that had done really was it took forever. It took all of our energy. We had to stop multiple times for multiple things. We were all getting thirsty by the end. And by the time we got to Overton, we stopped at McDonald's just to take a break. And the temperature had beat us down. I mean, we had talked about going backwards through that trail.
There and then turn around and go back.
But we couldn't have done it. There's no way we could have done it. It was not possible.
We emptied their Powerade machine.
Well,
they had to replace it. We all drank so much.
Well,
Powerade.
in that northern route, we took it one direction from west to east. And there were some obstacles there that I don't know we could have taken the other direction.
The hills where the
where we had to build the ramps to just get the Razor down. I don't know that we could have come back that same direction to come back, because here in Nevada, Razors or UTVs in general are not street legal. There are some ways that you can get around it, and there's a whole rigmarole to that. But ordinarily, it's not recognized by anyone. And we've even called Lake Mead National Rec Area, because ours is somewhat of a special circumstance. We do have it registered as a street legal vehicle, and it says that on the registration. We do have it. We have it hold insurance with it to drive it on the streets. And there are some circumstances when you don't even have those things, where you can go down the road a little bit to get to the next connecting trail.
Usually pretty understandable.
But we were stuck in Overton, and those were some of the things that we were considering. And we just ended up having somebody get a U-Haul trailer come out, pick us up, and drag us back to Vegas.
Well, that and one of our buddies' tires popped too.
Right.
He was on a flat tire for over half of it. Yeah.
Flat tire. I don't understand how he did it.
I don't know.
I don't know how he did that. So that's the gist on the Bitter Springs bypass into Logandale trails, which is awesome, by the way. Bitter Springs Byway, like I said earlier, do your research on that area, because there's more than just that one trail through the area. You can continue on that bypass, and if you get on Lake Mead's website, they have maps that show you where their 4x4 trails are and where you can do some backcountry camping, hiking, and off-road scenic driving, and that's included on there now. It didn't used to be, but they've updated their maps now to show that you can take the Echo Bay Wash as part of the Bitter Springs Byway and get all the way down there in your car. It used when we did it the first time, I didn't do all my research, and which is why I'm telling you to do research now. But we ended up having to come down this really janky hill in our stock Forerunner, and we had all the kit. I'm telling you, this thing was almost 70 degrees down in the Forerunner, and as somebody who's just starting and this is your only car, like, we were doing some of the stupidest things ever. And so, again, learn from me not to do that. But there is so much to see and do just in Lake Mead on the scenic byway. And on top of that, there is a route that will take you from the Bitter Springs Byway to the Muddy Mountain Trail. However, I would not take it in anything other than a UTV or dirt bike.
Yeah.
we did so much research beforehand before we did it, and we had gotten stopped so many times prior to actually connecting the two together. But there is a 2-track trail from one to the other. It's
barely
silly narrow.
Barely.
That razor barely fit, but it fits.
It's overgrown. There were times where we had to climb up to be able to see the trail because you just couldn't see it in front of you.
Well, and like Anna was saying, these things change so quickly that it gets overgrown in a year or 2 years. And this trail wasn't marked anymore. It had disappeared so much.
Yeah. Nobody took it anymore.
And I don't think I've enjoyed that so much. I've never had such a feeling of exploration or seeing things like I did when we did that, because
I think it helped. It finally connected all these trails we have been taking.
So we were finally able to do a huge loop out into the area and then down and out of the area. And Muddy Mountain Trail is pretty flat. Mm-hmm. There's really no issues to speak of. It's an old mining apparatus, and I'm not really sure what they mine there anymore. I've seen trucks up there, and I've seen people up there, and we've driven past them, and they've got signs, but none of the signs say, no trespassing, don't come through here. No, nothing like that. They just
don't mind at all.
There's fence that is always open. It's never locked. It doesn't say no trespassing anywhere on the fencing. So, and it even says on Lake Mead's website, on their maps, that is a trail.
I think they even encourage people to go, mine a little bit in that one specific area.
Yep. And you can do a little bit of exploration in that, because we've seen a lot of people in that area get out of their cars and just check out some of the wild nature that is out here. And I say nature, but it's like there's so much a geologist could see and find in the Lake Mead National Rec area. It's fantastic.
We found petrified wood.
Yeah.
In the middle of the desert.
Yeah, so. And some of the areas just north of here, which would include the Lake Mead National Rec area.
Yeah.
The Muddy Mountain Trail is pretty good. In the rain, I can absolutely see where that would be muddy. So be careful of the weather before you end up going out as part of your preparation. And I would say it goes to the backside of Pabco mining as well, and they do drywall there.
And that is, you do have to be careful which route you take through there, because there is some do not enter.
Yeah.
So you got to, and there's a lot of split off trails all over that.
There is a road to take to go through there.
You can go around it.
And you just want to beat that thing up, don't you?
I'm not used to it so close.
And so you can get through there. The Pabco Road there does say that it's a private use road, but you go west to get back to what is that, Lake Mead Road? Yeah. And that'll take you back into the city. Or if you're feeling funky fresh, you can go through the Nellis Bypass, which actually takes you through Apex.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty rough road. It's super, super rocky, but we'll be covering that in another episode of YOLOverland. If you guys have any more questions or comments, put them in the thing below. And I'll add, I'm going to add some more information in the description below about some of the apps that we use and some of the maps that we use, so you can go directly to those pages from here. And I think that's it for episode 3 of YOLOverland. Thanks for watching, and till our next video.
All right.
Bye. I have to go to it.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Okay.